The war between the Confederation of Earth and the Zyrathian Empire had dragged on for almost 20 years. It had begun, like so many wars, with a misunderstanding, an accidental skirmish over a mining colony on the edge of the Perseus Arm, followed by retaliation, then vengeance, then politics, and finally an unending spiral of violence. Humanity, still relatively new to the galactic stage, had survived only through grit, improvisation, and the bravery of ordinary soldiers who had no choice but to fight. Among them was Elias Kane. Elias was no decorated war hero. He wasn't the kind of man whose name appeared on recruitment posters or whose face was flashed across victory broadcasts. He was, in fact, painfully average. Shorter than most of his comrades, quiet, unassuming, and never the first to speak. His role had been mostly logistics, ensuring supplies reached the front, organizing rations, and managing communications between units. His superiors often overlooked him, but his fellow soldiers trusted him. Elias was steady, dependable, calm when chaos reigned. No one expected him to matter in the grand scheme of history. But fate has a way of weaving unlikely threads. The unexpected summons. The war had reached a fragile stalemate. Neither side could claim victory, but both bled resources faster than they could replenish them. Rumors spread that the Zyrathian Empress herself had demanded a face-to-face parley with Earth's representatives. Humanity, wary yet desperate, agreed. A delegation was chosen. Generals, admirals, diplomats, linguists. Every individual had years of training and experience in politics or warfare. Elias Kane was not on the list. And yet, on the morning of the voyage, he found himself summoned. Private Kane. The officer's tone was incredulous as he read the name from the assignment orders. There must be some mistake. But the orders were genuine, signed and sealed by high command. Elias was to accompany the delegation as a special observer. No explanation was given. He boarded the sleek diplomatic vessel in silence, trying not to meet the skeptical stares of the others. Why him? He didn't know. But he obeyed. Arrival at the Zyrathian capital. The Zyrathians were an ancient race, their empire stretching across hundreds of star systems. Their homeworld, Zyra Prime, was a vast planet of crystalline spires and glowing oceans. It shimmered like a jewel as the human vessel descended. Inside the grand palace of the Empress, tension hung heavy. The walls themselves seemed alive, shifting patterns of light moving like veins beneath translucent crystal. Alien guards in obsidian armor stood motionless, their insectoid eyes following the humans' every step. At the far end of the throne hall sat Empress Veylara. She was imposing, taller than any human, her form draped in shimmering robes that seemed woven from liquid starlight. Her face, angular and regal, bore markings that glowed faintly with bioluminescence. Her eyes, enormous and unblinking, regarded the humans with cool calculation. One by one, the human generals and diplomats made their speeches. They spoke of treaties, borders, reparations, and peace. They quoted legal documents and historical precedents. They raised their voices in practiced conviction. Veylara listened without interruption. Her expression never changed. Then, as the final diplomat finished, she leaned forward on her throne. "All of you speak," she said, her voice resonant and clear. "Yet none of you move me. Words, for you, are weapons to hide fear. Do you not have one among you who speaks truth rather than performance?" Silence fell. The delegation shifted uncomfortably. No one dared answer. It was then that Veylara's gaze moved, sharp as a blade, and landed on Elias Kane. "You," she said, "the quiet one who has not spoken. Step forward." Elias froze. He wanted to vanish, to sink into the polished crystal floor. But the Empress had commanded, and so, heart-pounding, he walked. The soldier's words. He stopped at the foot of the throne. Veylara studied him with unnerving intensity. "You are not like the others," she said. "Your uniform is plain. Your eyes do not boast. Who are you?" "Private Elias Kane, Your Majesty," he replied softly. His voice sounded too small in the vast hall. "And what is your purpose here?" He hesitated. "I honestly don't know. I was ordered to attend." The court erupted in murmurs. Some of the human delegation looked mortified. But Veylara's eyes glimmered with interest. "Then speak, Elias Kane. Tell me, why should I consider peace with your species when so much blood has been spilled?" Elias swallowed. He had no rehearsed speech, no polished rhetoric. All he had were his own thoughts, the truths he carried silently through years of war. So he spoke them. "Because we're tired," he said simply. "Both of us." The hall went silent again. He continued, words coming slowly but each one honest. "I've seen men and women die for scraps of ground that didn't matter. I've carried bodies back to ships so their families wouldn't have to wonder forever. I've read letters from children asking when their parents would come home, and I've known the answer was never." His throat tightened, but he pressed on. "We fight because we're told to. We bleed because someone somewhere believes pride is worth more than lives. But pride can't comfort a grieving mother. Pride can't rebuild burned villages. Pride can't bring back the fallen." He lifted his eyes to hers. "We're not so different, humans and Zyrathians. We both love. We both fear. We both bury our dead. If peace isn't possible, then the war will end only when there's nothing left of either of us. And I don't want that. I don't think your people do either." The words hung in the air. No grand declarations. No promises he couldn't keep. Just truth. Veylara's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "You speak as one who has seen suffering firsthand," she said. "Yes," Elias whispered. "I have." The Queen's reflection. That night, Veylara summoned Elias privately to her chambers. The other humans protested, fearful of manipulation or assassination, but the Empress was insistent. The chamber was quiet, lit only by the glow of Zyra Prime's moons through crystalline walls. Veylara stood by the window, her robe trailing like liquid silver. "Do you know why I called you here?" she asked without turning. "No, Your Majesty. Because in all these years of war, you are the first human who has spoken to me not as an enemy, nor as a negotiator, but as a being." She turned to face him. "Do you know what the Zyrathians say of humans? That you are reckless, impulsive, loud. That you burn brightly but briefly like sparks in the void. Yet you are quiet, steady. You remind me of something my people have long forgotten." "What's that?" Elias asked. "Humility." They spoke for hours. Elias told her stories of his comrades, of the laughter shared in trenches between battles, of the small kindnesses that made the war bearable. Veylara shared the burdens of command, the weight of ruling a people who demanded strength but offered little forgiveness. When dawn came, they parted not as ruler and soldier, but as two weary souls who understood each other. The turning point. Over the following days, negotiations continued. The generals pushed for demands. The diplomats argued over terms. But always Veylara's eyes sought Elias in the room, and always, his quiet presence anchored the storm.